Look who's home. The Contour came home after a year of sitting. Seems like that's all this car does. For anybody who doesn't know, this is a 2000 Contour SVT. It's a little battered on the outside from sitting in the Arizona sun for a while, but body's clean. It's got a lot of really good parts in it. Custom order ground control coilovers, Kone adjustable shocks, massive rear arms, PRT, solid subframe bushings, energy suspension mounts, inserts on the front, MSDS headers, Y-pipe, and those are all ceramic coated. The intake manifold was sent back to extrude hone and maxed out, so it's actually way bigger and smoother inside than the stock ones. Obviously it's got a filter on it. What else does it have? BAT 21mm rear sway bar, reinforced rear subframe. Decent little system, single 10, Alpine Type R10. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. This is a great handling car. It's so much fun to drive. Balanced, turns in well, sticks well, enough power. Oh, other things it has. We completely rebuilt the transmission. We did new forks, new bearings, new synchros, brand new Quaife LSD. It's got drive shaft shop. I think they called them stage 2 at the time axles. Basically like good up to 500 or 600 foot-pounds of torque axles. Never had a problem with them. It's got I think we did a spec stage 2 plus clutch in it. It had a stage 3, which was kind of a nightmare. It squealed and it was not happy when it was cold, and it was basically an on-off switch. But stage 2 plus, much more drivable. Still a little twitchy because it's got the Fidenza 9-pound flywheel in it. Makes it not have a lot of low-down torque because it doesn't have that inertia. But once it gets wrapping out between that and the optimized intake manifold and the headers, it loves being up high. These cars are a bit of a nightmare to work on. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on here. This car had sat for 10 years. It spent many years and 200,000 miles with me. I bought it in 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. Probably 2005. From the East Coast. I actually bought it in Rhode Island and drove it straight home. It's kind of fun. Kind of a similar story to what we did with the wagon. But yeah, it served me well. And we completely rebuilt the transmission then. We actually got a fresh transmission, put a T2 limited slip in it. That's also when we did the headers and everything like that. So this car was really good for a lot of years. Unfortunately, it ended up getting parked for near 10 years. The clutch had gone out on it. I was very busy and had other cars to drive, so it just got left in the garage. It followed me to 3 different houses and just sat and took up space in the garage. Couldn't bring myself to get rid of it because these cars really aren't worth anything. You can pick a nice one up for $3,000-$4,000. So it wasn't worth getting rid of if it wasn't running. So we kept it. By the time we went to go put a clutch in it, the coolant had turned to jello and started eating away at a bunch of the aluminum in the radiator and thermostat housing and the water pump, and it just made the engine questionable. So I found a totally battered parts car that was another almost 200,000 mile car in North Phoenix. Ran, kind of. It did run though. Pirated a bunch of parts off of it for this, and off of it for the 99. I used to have a 99 SVT, same silver over blue, but it was immaculate. It was 140,000 miles, I think, when I sold it, and it was beautiful. Everything was there. Right wheels, side skirts were perfect, body was perfect, ran perfect. I'll tell you the story on that one another day, but took that parts car, pirated all the parts I wanted off of it, including this engine. We opened the engine up, we checked the bearings. Everything was good. Everything looked clean. For a 200,000 mile motor, it looked perfect inside. So we sealed it all back up, threw it in here. It's been in 8 months, 9 months of it sitting after that happened. So I got to drive it for like 2 months, and then it broke. Did that, and then right after we moved in here, I noticed it was dripping a little bit of oil, which for a freshly resealed engine was not cool. So I took it back to the mechanic, my mechanic that takes care of this car, that did the engine changeover and rebuilt the transmission, did a lot of the work on it while I was out traveling and working. And said, I'm in no hurry. I got plenty of other cars. I got 2 Volvos. I bought a Mercedes since then. We're good. So basically, when you get to it, work on it. They fixed one of the oil leaks, and in the process, another one down at the pan sprouted up. The initial leak was in the rear head, kind of head front cover area. I'm not exactly sure, but basically they had to tear the whole top end off. Fix that. When they put it all back together, now there's a little itty bitty leak down at the pan. Not enough to worry about. Just some moisture, maybe a drop or two if it sits. As he said, it's not going to even drip at idle if you just leave it sitting here idling all day. So it's home. It's drivable. It drives good. What else am I forgetting? It has EBC pads and rotors on it. Nothing fancy. It's got Focus SVT wheels on it that are actually in pristine condition, amazingly. They're dirty right now. BFG G-Force Comp 2s, just like all the cars have. We did 10 mil spacers to kind of bring them out because the offset on the Focus wheels is a little funky. Sure, I'm forgetting something else, but all around just a really fun car. It sounds amazing. It's, stock these things were 200 horsepower. I'd be lucky if this thing's actually making that now, even with the mods, with the mileage, because again, it's a 200,000 mile chassis and a roughly 200,000 mile motor. But fires right up, sings, sounds great. The only problem we're having with it right now is the cooling fans aren't turning on. If you're moving, it's fine. If you turn the AC on, the fans run slow, but something's not quite right. So I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to try and figure out what's going on. We'll start with the easy stuff, the relays. I do have a new resistor for it, and if all else fails, we're going to go through the nightmare of pulling the radiator and the fan shroud, and going to have to replace the fan shroud. I do have a new one of those. And I have confirmed that it's not the temp sensor because we have a gauge pack in here, so we do have a temp sensor for an autometer gauge. It has autometer ultralights. It has a air fuel gauge that's not a wideband, because remember, this car was built in the early 2000s before we knew what widebands were, so it's just tapped into the harness. Gives you a sweep, lets you know rich or lean, and a general idea. Eventually, the plan is to put new exhaust on this and maybe put a real wideband in it and see if we can get somebody in town to tune it. But, yeah, we'll see what happens.